So, Disney. Oh dear Lord, we're doomed. So, the recent effort from Walt Disney Animation Studios is MOANA 2. Now, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the first Moana. I don't think it's a terrible movie, I don't even really think it's a bad movie. But a lot of people say it's like one of the best films in Disney's entire repertoire. I know I botched saying that word, but you know what I mean. And not just in terms of modern Disney, but in all of their movies, dating all the way back to 1937. And I don't get it. I'd even say it's in the middle of the pack for the modern ones from 2010 to 2019. Which is mainly known, which technically I guess is still in the same era as the revival era. Although I would like to say that Disney is now in a new dark age, starting with Ralph Breaks the Internet. But I'll talk more about that in another video that I have planned. So I wasn't really looking forward to this movie, especially since I heard a while back that there was supposed to be a TV show on Disney Plus, but I guess they scrapped that and just kind of turned it into this. And that's kind of worrisome. And the trailers weren't particularly enticing, but I did kind of, just a smidge, give this the benefit of the doubt after Inside Out 2. But that benefit of the doubt was stomped and drowned in the ocean after about 15 minutes of this movie. This movie's bad. This is really, really bad, which is weird because it's also so uneventful. Like, there are a lot of other bad movies that I watch, a lot of terrible movies that I watch, but there's still stuff going on. This movie, it's like, okay, let's compare this to the last movie I reviewed, which was Red One. And even though I wasn't particularly fond of that film, it kind of failed at pretty much everything it tried to be, it was still paced and put together mostly fine. It didn't feel like it dragged 10 pounds of ass, but it didn't feel like it was racing along to get to the credits. This movie drags ass. This is an hour and 40 minutes, and I can tell this was like a very thin story that was that was originally intended for a limited series on Disney. God, imagine if this was a TV show. Oh my gosh, just imagine how much more it would have dragged. Or maybe it would have been episodes that are like 10 minutes, and it would have been about 6 episodes, which would have greatly improved the pacing. It would not, however, improve the writing, because this movie had nobody from the original film outside of the actors. The director is different, and there's several directors on this one, as the original directors were the same guys who worked on movies like Aladdin and Hercules and a lot of good Disney movies. So, yeah. So, the directors are different, the writers are different, even the freaking composers are different because Lin-Manuel Miranda decided to do Mufasa the Lion King instead, which confirms my theory that that movie is going to be a musical as well. So, where do I even start? So I guess the main plot of this is that they're trying to find a new island because Moana gets a vision from her ancestors in a very contrived way, might I add, where if she finds out if they stay on this island, they're eventually going to die out. Or not necessarily if they stay on this island, but if they stay isolated from other tribes and other people and everything, they will eventually die out. And I will give it credit, that does kind of make sense, considering they're not exactly a large population. They have maybe 100 people there, I don't know. But, and that's really the entire plot of this film, is trying to find an island that's currently taken over by a curse, just like the first one, by some god named, I don't remember what his fucking name is. He doesn't even show up in the film until a mid-credit scene. Yeah, we'll get to that later. So, there are problems with this movie right off the bat. One of my biggest problems is the music. Now, I said at the beginning of the video that I'm not the biggest fan of the first movie, but one thing I will never critique about that first film is its soundtrack. The songs in that film are really, really good. And I've made fun of Lin-Manuel Miranda, mainly more his acting than his writing and composing, but I'm not saying he's a terrible actor, but never mind. The point is, I've never mocked him for his composing or his lyricism, whatever you want to call it. He's always been a very good songwriter, and it showed in the first film. The songs in this movie are terrible. Not one of them is good. Okay, well, I will give one song credit. There's a song called Get Lost, which is by this, like, vampire-esque creature that they come across who helps them on their way. While most of the song was shit, the chorus was kind of catchy. It wasn't exactly great, like, it wasn't, well, Moana 1 quality, but it was kind of catchy. But the rest of the song was shit, and I will say it was sung very well. Something that was not sung very well was the Rock song, because it's basically a repeat of You're Welcome. Not exactly, but, like, the visuals are the same, the kind of tempo and everything, it's kind of the same. His singing got worse. Holy hell, he was never a good singer in the first one, but a lot of people defended him because he had enough energy to make the song work. And again, I think that song was just written much better. This song is already not very good. And you have someone like The Rock, who's not exactly musically inclined. His singing is atrocious here. Oh my god. And of course there's a song there are a couple ones, including Maui's song. There's another song that has a shitty forced rap segment in it, because of goddamn course it is. And that brings me to another problem, is that there's way too much modern language in this movie. Like, especially from Maui, he talks like, well, The Rock. He doesn't talk like some 3,000-year-old demigod from 2,000 years ago. He talks like the fucking Rock from 2024. It's not good. And then, as far as characters go, her crew is the standard Three Stooges dumbasses that we got from the Lightyear movie, and you all know what I thought of that movie. Moana's little sister is one of the most annoying little shits I've ever seen put to film since Jar Jar Binks. I don't even want to talk about her anymore. Although, speaking of talking, there is way too much talking in this movie. And that would not be a problem if what anybody was saying was interesting. But it's not. There is just a ton of talking in this movie. And none of it's character-driven. It's just people fucking talking. It gets boring. So this movie is an hour 40, but it feels like a 3-hour movie because it drags ass. All these dialogue scenes do nothing but pad out the running time, and it gets ridiculous. And it's not helped by the absolutely terrible comedy this movie has. It is just, like, almost none of the jokes are funny. There's a couple out of Maui that are, like, trying to be modern jokes almost, and then there was a couple times they were, like, winking at the camera with some jokes. Like, there was a joke where Moana says, if we're not supposed to go on this journey, why would the ancestors have called me on this journey? And he's like, maybe it was a butt dial. That'll make sense in 2,000 years. Ugh, that's not how you write a big budget Walt Disney Animated Studios film. That's how you write a fucking Muppets movie. And if this was a Muppet movie, that would have been kind of funny. But it doesn't work in this film. There is one joke, however, one, that did get a legitimately big laugh out of me. Not just haha, that's kind of funny, or like, that was decent. It was a legitimately hard laugh, which is not something I've had in movies since probably Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think I've had a single movie that's made me actually laugh out loud at a joke since Deadpool and Wolverine, all the way back in fucking July. But there was one joke in this movie that did, where Maui meets Moana's incompetent crew. He's, like, chained up in, like, I don't know, bones or something. And the old guy who came with says, you look like a kidney stone. And Maui responds, you look like someone who would know what that is. That's legitimately really fucking funny. You can tell I'm still laughing about it, because it's just, even just repeating the joke is still pretty funny. That was a legitimately good joke. I wish the rest of the jokes had been that good. And then there's the animation, which for some reason looks terrible. I mean, it kind of looks like the first movie, but it also looks like it was incredibly rushed. Something about, especially Moana's mouth, I don't know what it is, but for some reason her mouth does not move right. It's not like it doesn't match up with the dialogue, but it just, like, never looks natural. I don't know what it is. A lot of the animation kind of almost looks like animated action figures instead of real people. It doesn't look good. There's a couple times, there was especially like a quick little dance sequence on the island before they leave on their journey, and the animation was janky as fuck. I don't know what was happening there. And it's not like the rest of the animation for the movie was any good. I've obviously seen way worse. This had a $150 million budget. This can't look bad, but for $150 million, it looks pretty bad. And again, the story is mostly just them trying to sail across the seas, trying to get to this one island so that they can essentially just move there, and a bunch of other tribes come in, and that leads me to the climax of this movie, which is one of those nonsensical climaxes I've ever seen. So essentially, they have to pull the island out of the water while being attacked by this storm created by a god. That already sounds kind of boring, but they somehow make it even worse, because for one, the Three Stooges aren't really doing anything. They're just kind of on the boat chilling. And this climax is such a mess, I kind of forgot what was going. I kind of forgot what the goal was until Maui started pulling the thing up. I forgot what they were even attempting to do. The way they pull it up is super well. Like, the way they stop the storm, there's some dumb Deus Ex Machina bullshit from Moana that comes out of nowhere. And, of course, it ends up killing her, and just like every other fucking movie like this. But if you think she's gonna stay dead, you clearly have not seen any modern Disney movie. Because Maui starts, like, singing the song from that her ancestors sang when they were sailing in that flashback in the first movie. Like a really soft rendition of that. And the ghosts of Moana's ancestors come in and not only resurrect her, but make her a demigod, very much like Maui, with tattoos up to about her elbow on her arm, and her little oar kind of having the same kind of design as Maui's fish hook, or whatever, his giant hook. And up to this point, I was just bored. Like, I wasn't. Like, this, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's, like, so boring, I just want the movie to end. This was the point where the movie became far too stupid to be forgiven. This is the point where the movie, pun intended, jumped the shark. This was so dumb. This is one of the I would say this was one of the worst endings we've had in a Disney movie in a while, but it seems like none of their movies can have a good ending anymore. This is just like Frozen 2. And again, and speaking of Frozen 2, with the similarity that I'm about to get into, is consequences be fucked. She gave her life so that she could stop the storm, so they could rise this island, so that her people could live on. But no, she's resurrected after about 30 seconds. I thought they were doing a regular fake out where she was just unconscious, not dead, but Maui thought she was dead. But no, they'd make it even worse by her being resurrected by her ghost ancestors. And it's just like Frozen 2, where there were absolutely no consequences for anybody's actions in the movie. Like, at the end of that movie, it should have been, they have to essentially drown Arendelle. Even though there's nobody there, that's still people's homes, and that's your kingdom that you've built over probably centuries. I don't really know how long it's been. That movie sucks anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is that for some reason, Elsa gets unfrozen before the tidal wave hits the kingdom, so that she's able to go and just stop the tidal wave because consequences be fucked. Or it's like Descendants 3, where the villain just gets off without even a slap on the wrist. Like, she just gets to live amongst them again as if nothing ever happened. It feels less like she she turned evil with Maleficent's staff and tried to take over the kingdom, and more like she pulled a prank that backfired. I fucking hate modern, and this is one of the reasons why I hate modern Disney. One, consequences be damned. Two, fucking nobody can die. Constant resurrections and fake out deaths. I'm so sick of this shit from Disney. Oh my god. This isn't the worst of the new, quote-unquote, what I'm gonna call the new dark age of Disney, because I refuse to call anything post-Ralph Breaks the Internet the revival era. The revival era died after the first MOANA movie. Was there anything in 2017, actually? No, there was a couple Pixar movies, but I don't think there was any Walt Disney Animated Studios movies. But the last one of that revival era was MOANA. The new dark age started with Ralph Breaks the Internet and is gonna continue. Maybe Zootopia 2 will be good. I'm holding out hope for that one, but God, again, like I was saying, this isn't the worst of the new ones. I'd say Ralph Breaks the Internet and Wish were probably worse, but damn, this movie took a turn for the worst in the last, 15 minutes. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the mid-credit scene. So, like I said, the actual villain of this movie, the god who created the storm, never shows up on screen during the movie. Ever. So, you might be wondering, where the hell is he? Why isn't he here? Well, to give you some context for this, I found out about a week ago that MOANA 3 is already in production. And I also saw, which is very telling, when I looked up the post-credit scene, because I didn't stay for it, because I didn't realize there was one, that this was a last-minute addition. Probably because after they announced MOANA 3, they added this little tidbit in. It's the god, it's like Nola or Nalo or something like that. I don't remember his name. And he meets up with... Not only does he imprison the vampire witch thing for helping MOANA. He chains her up with lightning. Okay, for helping MOANA and Maui on their way. And he meets up with Tamatoa. You know, the big crab thing from the first movie? Yeah, he's here now. I don't know what he's been doing, but here he is. And he's no longer, covered in gold and anything. He's, covered in bones. Where his gold went, I have no idea. And I honestly don't care. It'll probably be explained in the next movie. You know, when it comes out in 2032, Although, I doubt it'll take as long, considering this movie wasn't announced until only a couple years ago. I'm assuming this was announced after they had trouble developing a TV show. Maybe it's because this was the plot for the TV show, and they realized it was so thin, they decided to turn it into a film. And hell, it's even thin for an hour and 40-minute movie. This was such a thin story, it could have been told in half the time. This should have been a mini-series of episodes of 10 minutes apiece on Disney+. Kind of like what that, the Dream Productions looks like it's going to be, the Inside Out spinoff. I'm actually kind of interested to see if that'll be any good, because it's kind of just Pixar just making up whatever they want for, dreams in Riley's head. That sounds like a decent idea. I'm interested to see what they do with that. But back to this mid-credit scene, it's teasing a team-up between this god and Tamateo to probably be a team-up villain duo in the third movie. And I can't say I'm looking forward to it. It'll probably come out in 4 years. These movies take forever to get a sequel. Even Frozen, which was their biggest movie ever, still took 6 years to get its sequel, and they're already making 2 more of those, and God help me, I already don't like the first 2, and I don't think making 2 more is going to help your brand. This movie fucking sucked. I'm gonna have to, but I didn't want to. I'm giving MOANA 2 an F. I wasn't going to give it an F, because I realize I give that to a lot of movies, but it's not my fault. There's just too many irredeemable pieces of shit that come out nowadays. But I really was going to try to boost this to a D-D range, but then the last 15 minutes just completely sunk this movie. Made it again, like I said, it became too stupid to be forgiven. Up to that point, it was just a boring slog, and was just a giant waste of time with some annoying characters and bad songs and a paper-thin story, but I'm used to movies like that. But when an ending drops the ball this hard, I tend to take notice. And this dropped it big time. This movie was absolutely terrible. Disney continues to prove why I don't give any of their crap the benefit of the doubt. And Mufasa the Lion King is going to be hot trash as well. Book it. So that's all I got, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.